Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on your YouTube channel, the platform that you can take advantage of to take your English to the next level and sound like native speakers. Are you ready for another video? Of course you are, which is why you're here watching this video. Have you ever wondered when and where we can use the verb do and how many different uses it has? And why it is used in so many different places with different meanings, and how can we master all these different uses of the verb do in English, grammar-wise and vocabulary-wise? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing all the different uses of the verb do. Then after watching this video, what is supposed to happen is that you learn how to use the different uses of the verb do in different situations, and whenever you see do used in a sentence, you can recognize why it is used there and what it is supposed to do there. Are you ready? Of course you are. But before we continue with the rest of today's video, I kindly want you guys to like this video in support of my YouTube channel and its growth. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. And turn on the notification bell not to miss any of my future videos. And don't forget to leave some comments down below. These comments provide me with the energy that I need to keep making these videos for you. Alright, let's get started. Well, I have decided to divide our today's video into two separate parts. The first part is focused on the grammatical aspects of the verb do, and the second part will be focused on the vocabulary, uses, and aspects of the verb do. Let's start reviewing the grammatical aspects of the verb do. We can use the verb do in the simple present tense to form questions and also to make sentences negative, right? So whenever we want to form a simple present question or we want to make a simple present sentence negative, we use do, don't, does, or doesn't, right? Let's have some examples. Do you live here? Do you live here? It's a positive simple present yes-no question, right? So do you live here? Don't you know Alex? Don't you know Alex? Here we've used don't because it's a negative yes-no question. Doesn't your father live with you? Doesn't your father live with you? Again, another negative yes-no question, but we've used does because of your father, because of the third person subject. What do you know about me? What do you know about me? This is a WH question, right? A positive WH question. So we're using do to form this WH question. What don't they like? What don't they like? What don't they like? This is a negative WH question. Instead of do, we've used don't because the question is negative. Who does she love? Who does she love? A positive WH question with does. The third person she, right? So who does she love? Why doesn't he live with you? Why doesn't he live with you? Why doesn't he live with you? A negative WH question with doesn't because the subject is he. Why doesn't he? We use does or doesn't for subjects like he, she, or it in singular nouns. So why doesn't he live with you? She doesn't like tall boys. She doesn't like tall boys. A negative simple present sentence. I don't know you. I don't know you. A negative simple present sentence with don't. The previous one was doesn't. She doesn't like tall boys. This one is I don't know you. Don't because of I. So the first use of do is to make our simple present sentences negative or to form simple present questions, whether the questions are yes, no, or WH. The second use of the verb do is to form tag questions. Alright, now you may ask, what are tag questions? What do you mean by tag questions? Tag questions are the short, positive, or negative yes-no questions added to the end of our sentences to emphasize their meaning. So these are called tag questions. So we use do in order to form tag questions. Let me provide you with some examples of tag questions in which do or doesn't have been used. You know her, don't you? You know her, don't you? You know her, don't you? Don't you is the tag question here. So we use don't you in order to emphasize that someone knows someone else, or you know someone, you know her, don't you? She needs money, doesn't she? She needs money, doesn't she? She needs money, doesn't she? Doesn't she is a tag question here. They live with you, don't they? They live with you, don't they? Don't they is our tag question. Alright, let's move on to the third grammatical use of the verb do. We can use do to avoid the repetition of a verb that has been used before in a sentence, right? So when we want to repeat a verb in a sentence or use it once again in a sentence, instead of repeating the same verb, we can use do, right? Pretty easy, right? So let me provide you with some examples. I work here, but she doesn't. I work here, but she doesn't. I work here, but she doesn't. Here, she doesn't means I work here, but she doesn't work here. So instead of repeating work here, we can leave it out, we can omit it, and just simply say I work here, but she doesn't. She doesn't here means she doesn't work here. So instead of repeating work here like I work here, but she doesn't work here, we can simply leave out work here and just say, I work here, but she doesn't. They don't love cars, but I do. They don't love cars, but I do. They don't love cars, but I do. Here, but I do means, but I love cars. They don't love cars, but I love cars. They don't love cars, but I love cars. So instead of repeating love cars, because we've already said love cars in our sentence once, right? So we don't want to end up repeating love cars again and again and all over again. So instead of love cars, we can simply use do. They don't love cars, but I do, which means they don't love cars, but I love cars. They enjoy making videos, but we don't. 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 Here we don't means we don't enjoy making videos, but we have not repeated enjoy making videos. Why? Because we've already said it in one part of a sentence that they enjoy making videos. We don't want to repeat enjoy making videos in our sentence again and again and all over again. So in order to avoid repeating it, we can simply say they enjoy making videos, but we don't. Here we don't means we don't enjoy making videos. So this grammatical use of the verb do emphasizes that instead of repeating our verb in our sentence, or in order not to repeat a verb in a sentence, we can simply take advantage of do and replace the verb with do, whether it's positive or negative. If it's positive, then do. If it's negative, then don't or doesn't. All right, let's move on to the fourth grammatical use of the verb do in our sentences. Do you know that we can use the verb do before our main verbs to emphasize their meaning or to emphasize them? So what we simply do here is just put do before our main verbs. And what happens is when we use do before our main verbs to emphasize them, we use these simple forms of our verbs. So we don't use the ing form, we don't use the past form, we don't use the S form, the verb with the third person S form. We simply use the simple form, the base form of verbs without to, without ed, and without ing. So by putting do before our main verbs, we're emphasizing their meaning, or we're trying to emphasize them. Let me provide you with some examples. This car does look beautiful. 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 What does it mean? It means this car looks very beautiful. This car looks so beautiful. So by using does before look, we're emphasizing the verb look. We're emphasizing that this car looks very beautiful. But keep in mind that because we're talking about the car and the car is a singular object, we shouldn't use do. We should turn do into does. This car does look beautiful. You do need money. You do need money. We're using do before need. So by doing so, we're emphasizing the verb need. We're just trying to say that you need money so much. You need money a lot. You need money very much. So you do need money. But because the subject is you, so we're using do. If we, instead of you, we say she, then we should say she does need money. He does need money, right? Another example. She did call us. She did call us. She did call us. She did call us. What is the meaning of she did call us? Well, actually, this is a simple past sentence. So instead of using do, we're using did. And we're also saying she did call us. We don't say she did called us because we're using did before our main verb. The main verb should be simple and should actually appear with the base form, should take the base form. Without ed, without ing, without to, without anything, right? So she did call us, which means she called us so much. She called us very much. We're emphasizing the action or the act of calling. She did call us. Do be polite and nice. Do be polite and nice. Do be polite and nice. Do be polite and nice, which means please be very nice and polite. Be nice and polite so much. We're using the verb do before the verb be, right? With adjectives, we should use to be verbs like am, is, are. But because we want to emphasize the action of being nice or the act of being very polite, so we should use the base form of the verbs like am, is, are, and their base form is be. So do be nice and polite. I do believe you're right. I do believe you're right. I do believe you're right. I do believe you're right, which means I believe that you're right so much, very much. Or I have a strong belief that you are right. So here we're using do before believe to emphasize this verb. She does think we stole her money. She does think we stole her money. She does think we stole her money. She does think we stole her money, which means she thinks that we stole her money like a lot, so much, or very much. Or she always thinks that we stole her money. So here we're trying to emphasize the verb think by using does. Our subject is she, so instead of using do, we use does. And after does, we should use the base form of the main verb, which is think. So she does think we stole her money. Alright guys, so these were all the grammatical uses and aspects of the verb do that I just explained to you in the first part of our today's video. Now we're moving on to the second part of the video, in which I will be explaining all the vocabulary uses and aspects of the verb do to you. Alright guys, as I told you earlier at the beginning of today's video, we're going to be reviewing the different uses of the verb do in two stages, in two separate parts. The second part is focused on the vocabulary and semantic uses of the verb do. Before we continue with that part, don't forget to like this video. Please do it right now. Like this video in support of your YouTube channel and its growth. And also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and leave a comment down below. These comments of yours do fill me with energy and provide me with the energy that I need to keep making more and more of these wonderful and highly practical videos for you. Alright, let's continue. Now we're focusing on the vocabulary or the semantic uses of the verb do. Now you may ask, what is the meaning of the word semantic? Semantic is an adjective and refers to the meaning aspects of something. So the semantic uses of a word are its meaning uses, or its uses in terms of or from the viewpoint and perspective of meaning. So let's focus on the semantic and vocabulary uses of the verb do. Alright, the first and the simplest use of the verb do is to talk about performing an action or an activity. So when you do something, you perform an action or an activity, right? Yeah, a couple of examples. You should do your homework first. You should do your homework first. Which is pretty easy, which means you should perform your homework first, right? Do something about your health. Do something about your health, which means you really need to take action in favor of your health, or you need to perform an activity or an action about your health. So this meaning of the verb do is actually the most fundamental and basic use of this verb. I mean, without this meaning, we cannot form English sentences, right? So how can we form English sentences without using the verb do with the meaning of performing an action or an activity? Another example. If you don't do anything, she will die. If you don't do anything, she will die. If you don't do anything, she will die. Which means if you don't take action, if you just sit on your hands and do not do anything, if you do not take action, she will die. If you sit back and just watch, if you just sit back and watch, nothing positive will happen. She will die. She will lose her life. And always keep in mind that when talking about washing the dishes or cleaning our clothes or washing our clothes and, or homework, we always use the verb do. So you do your homework, and also you do the dishes, which means to wash the dishes, and also you do the laundry, which means to wash your clothes, your dirty clothes, right? So we always use the verb do with these words. So do the laundry, do the dishes, do homework, do ironing, do cleaning, right? Did you do the dishes? Did you do the dishes? Which means did you wash the dishes? Or who will do the laundry? Who will do the laundry? Which means who's supposed to wash our dirty clothes? Or who's supposed to clean our dirty clothes? Alright, let's move on to the second vocabulary or semantic use of the verb do, which is to show how successful someone is in doing something, or to show how good someone is at doing something. So the second vocabulary or semantic use of the verb do is focused on showing how successful someone is in doing something, or how successfully someone does something, or how good someone is at doing something. A couple of examples will provide you with a better understanding of what I mean. She has done well on her exams. She has done well on her exams, which means she's taken her exams successfully. Another example. You're doing badly in your life. You're doing badly in your life. You're doing badly in your life, which means you're not doing good at all in your life, or you're not successful in your life, or you're not doing things successfully in your life. Our students are expected to do well. Our students are expected to do well. Our students are expected to do well, which means our students are expected to do what they're supposed to do successfully, or to succeed in doing whatever it is that they're supposed to do or they should do, right? We usually say do well or do badly. Let's say to do well on your exams, or to do badly on your exams, or to do well or to do badly in a certain situation. All right, now let's focus on the third vocabulary use of the verb do. We can use do to say how someone is in something or with something, or how someone is actually doing something. How are you doing with your new job? 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 Which means, how is everything, in your new job? Are you doing things in your new job successfully? Another example. How is your brother doing in his life? How is your brother doing in his life? How is your brother doing in his life? Which means, how is your brother when it comes to doing the things that he's supposed to do or he should do in his life? Is he doing them successfully or unsuccessfully? So how is your brother doing in his life? Alright, the next use of the verb do is to say that someone or something has a particular or a certain effect on someone or something. Or to say that something has a certain or a particular impact on someone or something. A couple of examples. Strong communication skills can do a lot for your success. Strong communication skills can do a lot for your success. Strong communication skills can do a lot for your success. So here, do a lot for your success means strong communication skills can have a significant impact, can have a positive impact on your success. Or strong communication skills can have a very good or a very positive and constructive effect on your success. So here, to do a lot, can do a lot for means can have a very significant impact on. Another example, this amount of money does nothing for our life. This amount of money does nothing for our life. This amount of money does nothing for our life, which means this amount of money will not have any significant impact on our life, or this amount of money will not have any significant or noticeable effect on our life. Smoking will do serious damage to your health. Smoking will do serious damage to your health. Smoking will do serious damage to your health, which means smoking will have a serious impact or a very destructive impact on your health. Learning English can do you a world of good. Learning English can do you a world of good. Learning English can do you a world of good, which means learning English can have a very significant and can have an outstanding impact or effect on your life or on whatever it is that you're doing. This diet is doing magic. I'm losing a lot of weight. This diet is doing magic. I'm losing a lot of weight. This diet is doing magic. I'm losing a lot of weight. This diet is doing magic. I'm losing a lot of weight. Which means this diet has a very significant or an outstanding impact and effect on my life. On me losing weight. I'm losing a lot of weight, right? So this diet is actually working pretty well, is doing well and fantastically because I'm losing a lot of weight. All right, the fifth vocabulary or semantic use of the verb do is to say that something is actually enough or something is acceptable in a certain situation. So we can use the verb do with the meaning of something being enough in a certain situation or something being acceptable in a certain situation. A couple of examples I think will clear up the confusion and will help you gain a better understanding. I think $500 will do for your trip. I think $500 will do for your trip. I think $500 will do for your trip, which means I think $500 will be enough for your trip. So here, do has the meaning of being enough, being sufficient, or adequate. I think $500 will be enough for your trip or will do for your trip. Another example. Do you think 5 sandwiches will do? Do you think 5 sandwiches will do? Do you think 5 sandwiches will do? Which means, do you think 5 sandwiches will be enough? So here, do has the same meaning as the adjective enough. Do you think 5 sandwiches will be enough? Or do you think 5 sandwiches will do? It doesn't do to say that you can't speak English. It doesn't do to say that you can't speak English. It doesn't do to say that you can't speak English. It doesn't do to say that you cannot speak English. What does it mean? It means it is not acceptable to say that you cannot speak English. So here, do, when we say it doesn't do, it means it is not acceptable. So do has the same meaning as the adjective acceptable. So it doesn't do to say that you cannot speak English, which means it is not acceptable to say that you cannot speak English. So a very interesting and advanced way of saying that it is not acceptable to do something is it doesn't do to do something. It doesn't do to say that, it doesn't do to think that, it doesn't do to, believe that or whatever. One more example. It doesn't do to believe that your mother is a liar. It doesn't do to believe that your mother is a liar, which means it is not acceptable to believe that your mother is a liar. It is not acceptable to believe that your mother is a liar. So the verb do here has the exact same meaning as the word acceptable. It doesn't do to believe that blah, 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 has the same meaning as it is not acceptable to believe that blah, 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 right? Great, beautiful. So let's move on to the next use of the verb do. The verb do can be used to say that you spend a certain period of time doing something. So in order to say that you spend a certain period of time doing something, you can use the verb do. Let me provide you with a couple of practical examples in this regard. She did 2 years studying English. She did 2 years studying English. She did 2 years studying English, which means she spent 2 years studying English. So to do a certain amount of time doing something means to spend a certain amount of time doing something. One more example. You need to do 1 month training your new staff. You need to do 1 month training your new staff. You need to do 1 month training our new staff, which means you need to spend 1 month training our new staff. Let's proceed to the next vocabulary and semantic use of the verb do, which is to say that you study a particular subject at university or school. So when you want to say that you study a particular or a certain subject at university or at school, you can use the verb do in this regard. A couple of examples. She's been doing medicine for 5 years. She's been doing medicine for 5 years, which means she's been studying medicine for 5 years. So here the verb do means to study a certain or a particular subject. She's been doing medicine for 5 years, which means she's been studying medicine for 5 years. Another example. You should do English for another 3 months. You should do English for another 3 months. You should do English for another 3 months, which means you should study English for another 3 months. Let's get to the next use of the verb do. We can use the verb do to say that we provide a particular type of service or we sell a certain type of product. So in order to say that we sell a certain type of product or provide a certain type of service or we're the provider of a certain type of service, we can use the verb do. Let me give you a couple of nice and cute examples to help you gain a better understanding. What do you say? Of course, so let's have a look at these 3 examples. We do all types of renovation you need. We do all types of renovation you need. We do all types of renovation you need. Here actually do means we provide all types of renovation you need, or we provide all types of renovation services that you need. Another example. Peter does painting but doesn't do flooring. Peter does painting but doesn't do flooring. Peter does painting but doesn't do flooring, which means Peter provides painting services but does not provide flooring services. So here, to do painting means to provide painting services. And also to do flooring means to provide flooring services. So Peter does painting but doesn't do flooring. The third example. We do laptops but don't do phones and drones. We do laptops but we don't do phones and drones. We do laptops but we don't do phones and drones. What does do here mean? When we say we do laptops, but we don't do phones and drones, it means we sell laptops, but we do not sell phones and drones. So here the verb do has the meaning of selling a certain type of product. So do can be used to say you either provide a certain type of service or sell a certain type, a particular type of product. So we do laptops, but we don't do phones and drones, which means we sell laptops, but we don't sell phones and drones. All right, let's proceed to the next use of the verb do. We can use the verb do to say that you decorate or design or paint a building. So the verb do can be used with the meaning of designing, decorating, or painting a building, right? A couple of examples. We haven't done the kitchen yet. We haven't done the kitchen yet. We haven't done the kitchen yet, which means we have not painted the kitchen yet, or we have not decorated the kitchen yet. So we haven't done the kitchen yet. Another example. When will you do the living room? 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 Which means when will you paint the living room, or when will you decorate the living room? Whether this question means when will you decorate the living room or when will you paint the living room depends a lot on the situation in which this question is being asked, or depends a lot on the context. So sometimes it can be used to mean when will you decorate a room, a building, or when will you paint a building or a room. Alright, we're getting to the next use of the verb do, which is to say that you move at a particular speed or you travel a particular distance. So the verb do can be used to say that something or someone travels a particular distance or someone or something moves at a particular speed, right? A couple of examples. This car can do 200 kilometers an hour. This car can do 200 kilometers an hour. This car can do 200 kilometers an hour, which means this car can move at the speed of 200 kilometers an hour. So this car can do 200 kilometers an hour, which means this car can actually move at the speed of 200 kilometers an hour. On our first day in Tokyo, we did 55 kilometers. On our first day in Tokyo, we did 55 kilometers. On our first day in Tokyo, we did 55 kilometers. On our first day in Tokyo, we did 55 kilometers, which means on our first day in Tokyo, we traveled the distance of 55 kilometers. Alright, let's move on to the next use of the verb do. We can use the verb do to say that we copy how someone speaks, how someone talks, especially in a funny way, to entertain people or make people laugh. So, do can be used to say that someone talks in the same way as someone else, or someone copies how someone else speaks or talks, especially in a funny way, to make others laugh or to entertain others. A couple of examples. Oh, please do Obama once again. Oh man, that was really funny. Please do Obama once again. Please do Obama once again. That was really funny. Please do Obama once again. That was really, really funny. Which means, please copy how Obama talks. You did it pretty well. You're amazing. You're wonderful at copying how other people talk. You did a fantastic job of copying how Barack Obama talks. So please do Obama once again. It was really funny. Please, which means please copy how Obama talks once again. It was really funny. You made us laugh. It was really entertaining. He's great at doing Joe Biden. He's great at doing Joe Biden. He's great at doing Joe Biden. He is great at doing Joe Biden. He's great at doing Joe Biden, which means he's wonderful. He's great at copying how Joe Biden speaks. He really makes us entertained. He really makes us laugh and keeps us entertained by copying how Joe Biden speaks and talks. And he does it in a funny way and makes us laugh and keeps us entertained. He's wonderful. He's great at doing Joe Biden, which means he's great at copying how Joe Biden speaks. Alright, proceeding to the next use of the verb do. Do can be used to say that someone uses illegal drugs. So do can also be used to say that someone uses illegal drugs. Two examples. There's so many people doing drugs these days. There's so many people doing drugs these days. There's so many people doing drugs these days, which means there's so many people using drugs these days. How often does she do drugs? How often does she do drugs? Which means, how often does she take drugs? And finally, we're getting to the last use of the verb do in today's video. We can use the verb do to say that you visit a place as a tourist. So we can use do to say that you visit a place, you visit a certain place, for example, a historic place, or a famous place as a tourist when you travel somewhere. Two examples. On our first day in Paris, we did the Eiffel Tower first. On our first day in Paris, we did the Eiffel Tower first. On our first day in Paris, we did the Eiffel Tower first, which means on our first trip in Paris, we visited the Eiffel Tower first. And one more example. I hope we can do the Great Wall of China once we arrive there. I hope we can do the Great Wall of China once we arrive there. I hope we can do the Great Wall of China once we arrive there, which means I hope we can visit the Great Wall of China as tourists once we arrive there. Alright guys, that's about all. In today's video, you learned different uses of the verb do, both grammatical and semantic. Now what I kindly want you to do is like this video if you enjoyed watching it. Now that I keep watching it up to this point, also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so yet. And leave some positive comments down below to provide me with the energy that I need to keep making these lovely videos for you. I'll be back soon.